A three-judge panel heard arguments yesterday over whether former President Trump should be immune from prosecution for his efforts to try and overturn the 2020 election results and actions leading up to the January 6th Capitol attack. I'm joined by attorney George Cosenza to talk about this case. George, pleasure to have you back in studio with me.
Great to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. You look great, and it's wonderful to be back, my friend. This is an amazingly historic time in our country because the issues that the Court of Appeals and perhaps ultimately the Supreme Court are going to take up in this matter may change the face of law and change the face of politics going forward in our country.
Absolutely, George. So now the first thing that I do want to ask you is, for Trump's side of the case, what are kind of the arguments that he should be making in this case specifically to win?
Very creative. First of all, his lawyers are being very creative here, using the language in the Constitution and other examples as to how the Constitution was drafted to try to make a claim that a president of the United States who is not convicted in an impeachment proceeding has total immunity. That means he cannot be prosecuted for any official act that he does while he's in the White House. Huge. If they win on this argument, the federal cases against Donald Trump are gone. They go away. Now, I've listened to part of those arguments. I don't think the judges were buying that argument, but it's an extremely creative way for Donald Trump to avoid prosecution in the federal cases, not the state case, the federal cases that are currently pending against him.
And so now I want to jump to the other side of the table to what are the arguments that the special counsel should be making to try to win their side of the case?
They're saying that to take this concept and adopt it would lead to crazy type of scenarios. One of those scenarios being, for example, if a president was selling pardons while he was in the White House and he was not impeached for that act or was not convicted in an impeachment proceeding, which is largely a political proceeding, that even though he violated the law, violated the Constitution by selling these pardons, he would be immune from prosecution. One of the judgments said if the president killed a political rival and was not impeached for that act, he would get away scot-free. So again, if you take this out to its logical conclusion, it leads to an absurd result. And that's why I do not believe that former President Trump is going to be successful in these arguments. But who knows in this political climate? Who knows what our Supreme Court will do? Keep in mind, 3 of the justices on that court were appointed by President Trump.
Right. So as this case continues to unfold, and we might see it unfold sometime in the near future here, what are the potential outcomes and consequences maybe for the former president if he were to lose?
If he loses, he appeals, and he appeals, and he appeals, because his strategy, and many criminal defense lawyers use this strategy. I've used it myself. Delay, 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 delay. I think one of the things that former President Trump wants to do is to say, well, I'm going to delay these proceedings as far as I can. I'm going to be elected president. He's way ahead in the polls. I'm going to be elected president. And when I get in there, I'm going to put a stop to all of this nonsense. So that's part of the strategy in this case. It is very unlikely, in my view, that this case involving the January 6th insurrection, if that's what you want to call it, or assault on the Capitol, that case is probably not going to be heard before the election. He has other cases that are pending, the one in New York, the one in Florida, and another federal case in Florida involving the taking of the documents.
Right.
I'm not sure he's going to see a courtroom before the election. His strategy is not to see a courtroom before the election. Let me get elected president, and then I'm home free.
Absolutely. Well, George, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your wealth of knowledge on this subject here, because it's always great to hear great things from you.
Always great to see you, my friend.
Absolutely. When we come back from break, Mid-Ohio Valley meteorologist Kirk Greenfield will have one last look at your forecast. Stay with us.